Hey everybody, Dino here, and welcome to my world, the world of technology. Today I'm going to show you how to install Pop! OS Linux. You can install it either on a virtual machine or on a spare machine that you have. I'm going to install it on a virtual machine, and I'm using VirtualBox, but you can use VMware or Hyper-V or whatever virtual machine software you have. Or as I said, you can burn it to a CD or a DVD and load it on a machine that you have. The requirements are it needs to be a 64-bit machine, it needs to have at least 2 gigabytes of RAM, and it needs to have at least 16 gigabytes of storage. So I'm going to set up a machine real quick here, and I'm going to call this Pop! OS, and I'm going to set the type to Linux on here, and it's 64-bit. And let's see here. We're going to go with set it as 64-bit Linux. Right here, as I said, the minimum is 2 gigabytes. I'm going to go ahead and go with 4. I'm going to have it create the hard disk for me. I'm going to use the particular format that it defaults to. The only reason you would change formats here is if you needed to have it in a virtual hard disk format because you wanted to run it on different VM software. So if you wanted to create it in one VM software and run it on other VM software, potentially you may have to change that. But we're going to leave the default. I'm going to leave it as dynamically allocated, and then I'm going to put here 20 gigabytes, give myself a little extra space. We're going to create that, and so that's set. I'm going to go into settings, and I'm going to go to storage, and I'm going to go to the optical drive controller here, and I'm going to choose a disk file. And it's going to be the Pop! OS one that I downloaded from the System76 site. And I'm going to go OK here. So now I've got my virtual machine so that it thinks it has a boot CD in it with Pop! OS. So now I'm going to just start up the machine and we'll go through the process of installing it. Now there are a couple of quirks here that I found out testing this with this particular virtual machine, and I'll show you some tips here so you can avoid any little quirks that may happen, and they're mainly quirks from the particular VM, I believe. So let's start this up. Alright, so it's running through the text portion of the boot process to load drivers and figure out the hardware and stuff so that it can run a graphical version of the install program. So we're just waiting for that. Here's the logo. It takes a few minutes for it to get through the boot process. If we click here on activities, it should be actually starting up the install program now. By clicking on the activity, it gives us kind of a menu and options in this particular graphical user interface. Alright, so it started up this interface here. I'm going to go to activities. You can see there's a select button down here that we couldn't see when it was maximized. That's because of the screen resolution. Now you can actually run a demo version of this software and just kind of run Pop! OS without installing it on anything, but it's kind of limited then to what's on there. You can't really load other applications on it when you're running it in demo mode, but you can run some of the stuff. So we're going to go down here and we're going to go to settings. And I need to go down to displays right here. And I need to set this. It's at 800 by 600. I want it at 1680 by 1050. I'm going to apply that. And it makes everything bigger. Keep the changes. It worked out for me. You may have to mess with that depending on your monitor and what version of virtual machine software you have. But that works out pretty good for now. Now we're going to have to go in and reset this after we install it, because this is it won't save this because it's booting from an image, and this is just to install it. But it makes it easier to install it to have it the correct resolution. So we're going to run through this. We need to select language. By default it's English, and that's good with me, so I'm going to hit select. It's going to ask for what country, and United States is good, so I'll select that. And keyboard layout English US is going to work for me. And here there are a few different types of keyboards that you can use, like if you have a Dvorak keyboard or something. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the default on this as well. All right, now, do you want to do a clean install or a custom advanced install? Probably if you're just messing with this for the first time or just messing with it on a virtual machine or an old machine, go with the clean install. The custom install is if you want to set particular partition sizes and such. It's also if you want to do like a dual boot, which I don't recommend unless you really know what you're doing. Also, if you're going to install this on a machine that you're actually using, it's best to install it on a VM than to do it as a dual boot. So let's do the clean install and click clean install. And then we have to select a drive. We only have one drive here because VirtualBox can only see the drive that we created for it. The nice thing about this is this drive is just a file on the hard drive, and this is the only drive it can really access to install to, so it can't destroy an actual drive in this case. But you do want to be careful about that if you're using an actual machine. Once again, I'd install it on a VM or install it on a spare old machine first. The only requirements is that you have 2 gigabytes of RAM and at least 16 gigabytes of hard drive space to install it on a machine. All right, so we'll select that and we'll go erase and install. Now, it's asking us to choose a password for encryption. In this case, I don't recommend encryption. So let's just go with not in this case. If you need encryption, make sure you remember your password. Now it's going to take a few minutes for it to extract files, to configure itself, to install stuff. So this will take a couple of minutes, and then it will come to the next part of the installation. All right, so it took a few minutes to get through the process of installing all the files and partitioning the drive. And so now it's asking us to restart the device. So I'm going to restart it. All right, it's come up with a welcome screen. We're going to hit next here. Hit next. This is if you want to turn off geographic location services. Time zone is correct for me, so I'm going to go through that. I'm going to skip this. I don't want to set up any online accounts on here. All right, so then it's going to ask for your full name and what username you want. So I'm going to just use Dino for both. Now it needs a password. Now you can see at the bottom there's a little bar and it's red now. Now it's yellow. And now it's green. And that shows me how strong my password is. So that's a really nice feature. And that kind of helps you make sure you get a decent password. So we'll hit next here. All done. So we're going to start using Pop! OS. Now we're going to have to reset the screen resolution again, I think, in our case. Now it might auto-detect it for you depending on your hardware, but a lot of times within virtual machines, OSs don't necessarily detect it right, or you need to add in some helper programs. So if we click on that, on activities, we get a menu here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, depending on your VM, you can install helper apps. But one way to fix it is to go down here and just go to settings. and go to display. And once again, it's back to 800 by 600. I'm going to put it back up to 1680 by 1050. And apply it. Keep the changes. And that seems to fix the problem right there. Now, I also have the ability to go up here and insert guests CD. And it's supposed to... and it actually will try to install some drivers. A lot of VMs will do this. We need to put in our password to do it. Authenticate. And so now it's loading the drivers for the VM. And a lot of times that's what you have to do. This is how you do it for VirtualBox, but there's this similar drivers for VMware. And so just check with your documentation to your VM software to see if it has helper apps or drivers or whatever. Okay, we just want to hit that to close the window. Then we want to restart it so that the drivers will load. And let's see what happens. All right, it restarts, and I need to enter my password. And it actually fixed it so that it's actually the full size. So when I resize this window, it actually matches the window size. So by installing those helper applications or the drivers for VirtualBox, it actually, when you resize the window, everything will resize. So this works better than just having the resolution set, because when you just set the resolution, if you rechange or if you resize the window, it will only show a portion of the screen. And so it's much better now. We'll click on activities again. This gives us some apps here. This gives us our file manager, Firefox web browser, our Linux terminal, so we can run Linux commands in it. It also gives us a pop shop, which is where you find new programs to install and where you update programs that are already installed. And at the bottom it says show applications, which is our application group. We've got a calculator, a calendar, contacts. We've got the file manager again, Firefox again. I'm not sure what Gary is. Maybe it's some sort of email program. We have LibreOffice in here, which has an equivalent to Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. So it has a word processor, a spreadsheet, a drawing program, and a presentation program. Once again, PopShot. We have our settings here, which has all of the different system settings things that you can do in here. Very nice. Let's go back up to activities again and back to this program group. We have system icon, which has some system apps in it. There's the terminal again. We have a text editor. We have some utilities here. And then we have the weather for some reason, which is kind of nice. That's a nice app, actually. All right, so there you have it. That is how you install Pop! OS. And that was kind of just a quick overview of where some of the layout of things are. I'm Dino, and this has been Dino's Tech World, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like.